homeowners insurance, and we're going to talk about the master policy, and the most important thing we're going to talk about is something called an HO6. It stands for Homeowners Form 6. It is a policy only you as owners can buy. It's nothing to do with what the association buys. And if you don't buy this policy, you're going to be in deep kimchi someday when you should and need it. So we're going to talk about the master policy, what it can do, and then we're going to talk about this HO6. And 99% of the companies call it the same thing. And for the few of you who might have a company that doesn't call it an HO6, the minute you call your agent and say, someone was talking to me about an HO6, he'll know what you mean. Those of you who have this policy, it is an HO6. That's all the agent could have sold you when he found out you lived in a condo. So everybody who has a policy has an HO6. But the important thing is it a mighty HO6, or is it one that is just the cheapest, the basic, and does not afford enough coverage for you? So basically in every condo, there are two policies that matter. The master policy, that's the one you pay for in your maintenance fees. That's the one the association, the board of directors, has purchased based upon what your bylaws say they have to purchase. 99% of the bylaws say that they have to buy a policy covering certain perils. It says fire, extended coverage. Okay, fire, lightning, and extended coverage. Extended coverage is an insurance term that then adds on perils like lightning, smoke damage, vehicle damage, vandalism, falling objects, and of course the one that always causes claims, water overflow, sudden and accidental from a domestic plumbing system, and hails and other things. So there's certain perils that they have to buy. Okay? So your bylaws tell your board what they need to buy. And the insurance agent reads the bylaws, makes sure they've got the right coverage, and presents a quote to the board. So we know that the board has purchased the right amount of insurance. We have to check the replacement costs, things of this sort. So basically the master policy is something that is paid for in your maintenance fees. And your mortgage companies get copies of the master policy because they have loaned on the building and they want to make sure it's adequately covered. Sometimes owners will ask for it. I gladly email it to anybody who wants the master policy. I say, please feel free to read it at bedtime. It's 80 pages long, 100 pages long. It'll put you to sleep with no problem. But you're more than welcome to these policies, okay? There's not a problem with that. But along with this master policy, the bylaws say we can only cover the building as originally built at today's replacement cost. So we have to, maybe the building 30, 40 years ago was built for $10 million. Today it's probably insured for $20-something million or a lot more because the cost of construction has gone up. But we are still going to give you money for cabinets, tubs, toilet sinks, walls, floors, ceiling, electrical plumbing, the light fixtures, everything as originally built. Now, the problem comes in effect when 10 years after living there, somebody says, I'm sick of carpet, I'm putting down, and in the 90s, everybody was putting down beautiful wood floors, if they could, without the sound barriers, etc. We'll go to that later. But they were putting down wood floors. Now they have a claim. We're giving money for carpet. Carpet's $3,000 today, wood floors $20,000. There's a shortage. The master policy is as originally built. My first condo that I lived in had no ice maker. Didn't come with a refrigerator back then. I upgraded, put in a refrigerator with an ice maker, paid the electrician, the plumber to put in the whole bit. Okay? That's an upgrade. If my unit caught on fire or I had a loss to my refrigerator, I'm not going to get money for a nice new one with an ice maker back then because they didn't have ice makers. That's how old I am. So what I'm trying to say is you've got to decide what is new. And the hardest thing is when you buy a unit that's been in existence for 20, 30 years, you're a new owner and it's really beautiful, and it's got granite, and it's got marble floors, and wow, and I've got this great refrigerator. It's a $15,000 super duper model, and oh wow. Well, you know what? It more than likely didn't come that way. I lived on the Alawai for many years. Let's be honest, it was pressboard cabinets. It was formica tops. It was shag carpeting. And some of it was even orange. Okay, you can't get these things today. We will give you basic cabinets if that's what it came with. If it's a condo that came with high-end cabinets, we will give you money for high-end. Okay, it's going to be as originally built. And it's in your docs. You'll be surprised how we can find out what was original. Because there are things that say, we're going to give you a washing machine, or we're not giving you a washing machine. Or it'll say, air conditioning was included or it was not. So these things are listed. Now granted, we may not know exactly, but there's always somebody who's been in the project for a long time who can say, oh yeah, we had these, this was original or this was not. So we can get pretty close when we have a claim. But the important thing is you don't want to be short money. It's your money that you have put into this unit, and if something goes wrong, you would like to have it back the way it was. So the HO6 is the policy that gives you the ability to purchase additional coverage to make sure you're covered to what has been done to your interior of your unit. All condos are governed by either 514B or 514A. All of them say the same thing. We have to cover the building as originally built. Every policy has a deductible. Excuse me. Every policy has a deductible. That deductible, if you cause the claim, is going to be charged back to you. Your HO6 can help you there. Okay? Keep in mind, the HO6 is going to cover not only your upgrades, your contents, but also the association's deductible, if it is charged back to you, or if it is split amongst 2 or 3 unit owners. It will be there to help you. The property policy for the association and the HO6 cover basically the same things. Property policy that the master policy buys is as originally built, and it comes with liability coverage. The HO6 covers your things and liability, and you want to buy the HO6. In the old days, 8 years ago, a landlord could not buy an HO6. They used to have to buy a separate policy, fire policy, then they used to buy a separate liability policy, and then in 2006, when 514B came out, the insurance industry realized it was just easier to sell everybody who owns a condo an HO6. So whether you're a landlord or an owner, you can have an HO6. As a landlord who has, let's say you have 5 units, you should have 5 HO6 policies. If you're a unit owner and you have 2 rentals, then you should have 3 HO6 policies. However many units you have, you should have an HO6 policy for each and every one of them. It is the broadest coverage you can buy as a unit owner. As a landlord, it will protect you for your loss of rents, which we're going to talk about in great detail, or loss of use if you're an owner-occupant. But the HO6 is the policy that you as owners should have. And any owner who does not, you're playing with fire, literally. Because when we have a fire claim and you're going to have to lose everything, you're not going to have enough coverage coming from the master policy. Okay, so we know that the master policy is made up of property and liability. We also know the HO6 is. The HO6 is for owner-occupants or landlords. Those of you who are landlords, there's a policy called an HO4. An HO4 is for tenants. Okay, it also covers their contents. It covers their loss of use, and if they cause a claim, it will even pay the association's deductible, or it will pay back the master policy for the whole claim. For example, I had a loss many years ago in Mililani. A woman left a candle on, the drape blew, caught the unit on fire. She forgot she had left her candle. She had an HO, we paid the claim under the master policy. She had an HO4. The master policy was able to subrogate against her because she was a tenant, not an owner. Now, if an owner did that, we're stuck. We can't subrogate against an owner. But because she was a tenant, the insurance company was able to go back to her policy and pay back that claim so it was not on the association's list of losses. So the next time when we went out to bid, it was still clean instead of having this $95,000 loss on their record. Then everybody says, oh, I don't know if I want to quote this. They've had a fire. You know, it didn't affect the association because that landlord was a good landlord and said, hey, tenant, you want to rent my unit of $300,000, $500,000? I want proof you have an HO4. It protects everybody if landlords would make sure that everybody had an HO4. The association cannot do that. The association can only make sure their owners have an HO6. Only the landlord can make sure tenants have an HO4. So for those of you, and there's a few landlords in here, you should make sure that your tenants have an HO4. Also, if your tenant sets your unit on fire, They have loss of use, just like you do as owners. They have loss of use of their unit. And because they've lost the use of it, they can still pay you the rent because their insurance company is going to put them up elsewhere while the unit is being rebuilt. So if the landlord doesn't lose anything by having a tenant who set the place on fire. My favorite case, my favorite story is a Makiki apartment. Tenants are moving in, up and loading all these boxes, coming in the elevator, plopping them all over the apartment. Last box, they're almost down to the last couple. They throw one on the stove. Somehow they hit the button. By the time they went down and started to come back up, the fire department is arriving because the place is on fire, and it was an $800,000 claim to the association, minus their $10,000 deductible. So we had damage to about 3 units, smoke, water, it goes all over. The tenant who just signed a year's lease, did not stay, needless to say. They've lost everything they owned. They had no insurance, okay? The association charged back to the landlord the deductible of the master policy. The landlord had coverage, he had his HO6. Many people tried, not the association's master policy, but many individual unit owners who had damage to their unit tried to go against, their insurance companies tried to go against the landlord. But the landlord is not held liable in this case for the acts of his tenant. So there was nothing to go against. If those tenants had an HO4, if the landlord had said, you can't rent my unit without showing me proof of an HO4, the policy, the deductible would have not been charged to the landlord. The association could have gone back against the tenant for some of their loss, as the other owners as well. So it's really important that we sometimes think not only of our own selves, but what is good for everybody. It's good for the tenant to have an HO4 because those kids would not have lost everything they had already started to build up. And tenants, when they're young and starting out, don't have a lot, but they still have stuff, and they still need to keep that insured. So it is really up to different parties to make sure who's adequately insured or not. So the HO6 covers upgrades, and it covers improvements, whether made by you or not. The HO6 covers contents, all your stuff, okay? It covers the association's deductible, which in some cases is very high, $10,000, $25,000. There's even a condo with a $50,000 deductible. That means every claim is on your back if you live in that association, unless it's a huge claim. Loss of use. Loss of use means I can't live in my unit, there's been a fire, I still have to make maintenance payments, I still have to cover my mortgage, and darn, now I got to go find a place to live. Okay? Loss of use actually means you will continue to make your maintenance payments, you will continue to make your mortgage, because the insurance company is paying you to go live elsewhere. Without that, you're going to be begging somebody to say, oh, please, do I have to pay my maintenance fees? How about I put my mortgage, you could call your mortgage company and they'll say, okay, well, we'll give you 2-3 months not to pay it, but we'll tack it on at the end. They don't say it's forgiven. Nobody says it's forgiven. You owe this. When you bought into this condo, you said you would make maintenance payments. When you bought that mortgage, you said you would pay mortgage payments. Just because you've had an accident or a fire does not mean you get out of that. But if you had an HO6 with good limits, you would then be able to afford your same standard of living. What we found out with the Marco Polo fire is that a lot of people didn't either have their homeowners yet or had extremely small limits. Oh, my policy's $100. Well, ask yourself, if I'm only paying $100, what the heck do I really have in limits? If you're paying a couple $100, you're probably more in the norm. Many people did not realize it costs about $3,000 to rent a place. And maybe you're only paying, with your mortgage and maintenance fees, $1,000 or $1,200 to live there, or $1,500. And now you've got to continue to pay those and go rent a place. Many people have used up their loss of use within 2 or 3 months. I, as a landlord, looked at my HO6s after the Marco Polo fire and said, I wonder if I've ever updated my rental income. And I looked at it and I said, ooh, some of these are kind of low. Maybe I'm no longer am I only getting $1,000 a month, maybe it's up to $1,200, or maybe one is up to $900 a month instead of what I had it at. So I had to go to my own agent, who's in my office, and said, hey, here's my rental income, increase my policies. so that if something happened to one of my units, I would still get my income through my insurance company, because obviously the tenant's not going to pay for it. So it's really important that you look at the limits you have. Because the premium, it's cheaper than your auto premium, your HO6. And because it's so cheap, when you get it, you just cut the check and you don't even think about it. But you should look at your limits. Under dwelling, that's where your deductible is paid, plus your improvements. So if you have made, or some realtor told you, oh, you're buying this gussied up unit, the prior owner put $50,000 into this unit, and you have a $10,000 association deductible, you need $60,000. So you should have dwelling of 60. If you are buying a brand new unit, the way it was conveyed by the developer, and you're just moving your stuff in, the only thing you need to have under dwelling is the association's deductible. But if you decide you're going to put a fan here, and you're going to fix this light here, and you're going to put, then you need to start adding. And it is your responsibility as owners to call your agent. No agent is going to come out or call you on an annual basis and say, should you make any improvements? Should I increase your coverage? They're not doing that. It's your responsibility. You either live there or rent it out. You know what you've done. You need to make sure that your policy matches what you've done. So when your renewal comes each year, no longer just write the check, ladies and gentlemen. Look at your limits. See what you have for dwelling or building. They either call it building or dwelling on every company's HO6. That's for the association's deductible, as well as improvements to the dwelling, things that are attached. You built a bookcase on and attached it to the wall. You have a mirrored wall, and you've added in a beautiful chandelier. Whatever you've done, you ripped out the carpet and you put down a wood floor. When you sell the unit, you can't pick up that wood floor and go. You can't take the mirrors off. Those are things that are attached to the dwelling that you have to insure, okay, that you have to cover. The master policy and the board can't help you on this. It's your job. So you need to make sure you have enough coverage for dwelling. The next thing is your contents on the HO6 or the HO4. Contents, you know what you've got. You'd be surprised what you've got. I was at a board meeting and they were asking me to talk about the HO6, so the board president said the night before, he was adding up, sat in his living room and added up all his stuff. His electronics, his furniture, his pots and pans, his clothes, all of this. He and his wife did it all. They were shocked. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment. They came up with $188,000 for stuff. First of all, besides telling them they had too much, they need to get rid of some of it. I don't know how they live. But $188,000, and they said, we looked at our policy and we had 50. Now, I've had many people say, well, I don't need all the stuff I have. I don't care if 50 is enough. Well, it's enough until you have your claim. And then it's not enough. Okay, so be realistic. If you've got a lot of stuff and you want your stuff to be paid for, then you have to choose a realistic limit and tell your agent. So every time you get your renewal, dwelling plus the improvements plus the association's deductible, and you should keep tabs of what the association's deductible is. As your buildings age, there's more and more water claims, and as you're doing that, the deductible is going up because the association, the insurance company is saying, hey, you're having a claim a week, or you're having a water claim a month. You know, make the owners check their appliances, call a plumber, do something, and we're going to up your deductible until you do something. So that needs to be conveyed to you owners to say, oh, deductible went up. I better add some more coverage to my HO6 if you want to be adequately protected.